Let me make sure off the top of my head that we have everything.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Hi, it's Sarah Hayes with She Tries. I'm here at Blue Sky Endurance, getting ready to start your transition clinic. So we have some people here in person and many of you joining us online. Please feel free to add questions in the comments and we'll try to get to those during the clinic today. The clinic is being led by Billy.
Hello.
The bike and everything guru here at Blue Sky Endurance. So I'm going to let Billy take it from here.
Yeah, I'm Billy from Blue Sky. I'm triathlon coach, bike mechanic, avid triathlete, everything. So I've done a lot of transitions and I've set them up correctly and I've set them up incorrectly many times. So I'm going to give you kind of some of the tips and the ways that I would set it up to make sure you can have a fast and efficient transition. So starting off, before you even show up on race day, you want to make sure you have everything that you need. So walk through the race in your mind before you even get anything, before you put anything in the bag. Make a list to make sure you have everything you need. Starting with when you're going to be swimming. You're going to need your tri-suit or whatever you're wearing for the race, followed by your goggles and a cap, and make sure that you have everything that you'll need for the swim. If that's all you need for the swim, then the next thing you got to think about is the bike. You want to make sure you pack your bike, obviously. Then you want to make sure you have whatever you're going to wear for the bike. Your helmet, your bike shoes if you wear them, or running shoes, some kind of hydration, and then that should get you through the bike. And then when you get off the bike, whatever you're going to wear for the run, whether that be your running shoes if you're not already going to be wearing them for the bike. If you're going to be wearing socks, make sure you have those, sunglasses, a race belt, whatever you're going to need for all three portions. Just make sure, run through a mental list that you have it all before you even get started. So once you've made that list and you have everything you need, I put everything down here. This is not how I would set up a transition. I'm just going to show you while walking through setting up the transition so you can see everything you need. So I am going to be swimming. I have my goggles and my cap. I'm not putting this in transition because I'm going to need it before I even go to a transition. So I have these things. I'm going to keep these on my person at all times before the race starts. So I'm going to put those to the side. The next thing, nutrition. If you're going to be using goo, if you're going to be using Huma, if you're going to be using any kind of gels or waffles or anything while you're racing, you're going to want one before you start the swim. So that's one thing you'll want to set to the side. So I have everything I'm going to need for the swim already set to the side. The next thing is setting up for the bike, since the first transition is getting from the swim onto the bike. So in this situation, I have my bike shoes right here. Some people will put them on their bike already. Some people won't. Let's pretend I'm not doing that right now, and I'm going to be using bike shoes. I want them to be the most accessible thing to me, with the exception of the helmet. Now you'll notice I have a towel down right now. The towel is now for drying off. When I get out of the water, I'm not going to use this towel to dry off my entire body. The towel is for when I get to the first transition, I'm going to quickly just step on it, and what that's going to do is it's going to dry the bottom of my feet, make it a lot more comfortable to wear these bike shoes. It's also going to wipe off any of the grass, any of the gravel, or any of the sand that might be on your feet while you're racing or when you get out of the pool. So I'm quickly just doing that, just dabbing my feet off, and I have my bike shoes. They're closed right now. I want to make sure I have everything open and available. Okay? So my bike shoes are there. That's how I have everything set up for my bike transition so far. The next thing is my helmet. In this case, this is an aero helmet. If you're not using an aero helmet, you might have something like this, which is more of a standard helmet. But I have it buckled right now. Make sure that you have everything unbuckled before you even get started. That way, it's there and ready for you. Now, you'll see some people doing this, setting up their helmet on there. I suggest against it. Reason being, if you're not the first person out of the water and somebody else beats you to it and knocks the front of your bike, your helmet's going to fall off and start rolling away. Best idea to do is to have it down here. Now, let's say you have an aero helmet or a helmet that has a visor on it. This is another reason why it's important to have a towel. In the morning, there's a lot of dew on the ground. There's a lot of humidity. Having a towel is going to help to make it so that that visor doesn't get fogged up. But the first thing you're putting on when you get out of the water is your helmet. It's against USAT rules to even touch your bicycle before you have your helmet on. So I want to make that the first thing that I can access when I get out of the water. So I have it set up for the bike. I'm going to get out of the water. I'm going to put on my helmet first. I'm going to put on my bike shoes, grab my bike, and I'm on the way. Then I'm done my bike, okay? So behind all of this, I'm going to have my running shoes. If I'm wearing socks while I'm running, then I'm going to make sure I have that sock for each foot set up inside of my shoes. So they're ready to go. I have them set. Now let's say you're wearing shoes for the actual bike itself. Then, pretty easy. Those are gone. Those just take their place. So we wouldn't even have to worry about this. But in this scenario, I had used bike shoes for the bike. So when I get back, obviously these won't be here because they'll have been on my feet. I'm going to be running up in my bike shoes. I take those off. I just take my running shoes, and I'm going to put those on. So those are going to be set up the next easiest thing to grab. Now, notice I have not taken off my helmet yet. So I said I'm putting on my running shoes. I haven't even taken off my helmet. That's because if I ever have to even touch my bike like this, adjust anything, you have to make sure you have a helmet on at all times. It's just one of the rules, many rules that USA Triathlon has implemented. Now that I have my running shoes on, I can go ahead and take my helmet off. I'll put that back down. If I need a nutrition, I'm going to grab that. The other two things are a race belt and glasses. And after I kind of run through this, I'm going to show you how I'll set it up so it's easiest to access. Both the race belt and glasses, you don't need them to be on you before you start your run. So I'm going to grab these and I'm going to start running. And I'm going to put these on while I'm running to make it quick and efficient. So to set this up so that you can get all of those things easily, let's say my shoes will be here. I've got the socks in each shoe, so I know which sock, because in this case, they're the type of socks that one goes on each specific foot. One's a right, one's a left. And then I want the glasses and the race belt to also be accessible. So those will be there. I'll have my goos easy to grab. And I'll have been wearing my bike shoes, but they'll go right in front. So if I were setting up my transition, it would look like this, okay? Reason being, like I said, you're getting out of the water, you're putting on your helmet, it's easy to grab. Then you're putting on your bike shoes, that's the next easiest thing to grab. Then when you get back off the bike, the only thing that's going to be left in your transition area are your shoes, your glasses, your race belt, and nutrition if you're taking it. Now, the one part I haven't touched on yet is grabbing your bike and taking your bike. So when you're in transition and you set up your bike, you'll usually have something set up where your bike might be leaning or it might be in this position, but you set up your transition next to your bike's front wheel. When you take your bike out and you return your bike, you have to make sure you put it back the exact same way it was, that your front wheel is right next to your stuff. You don't want to have it turned around. But it's most important, like I said, that if you have your hands on your bike at any point in time, you have your helmet on. And that's just out of basic rules. So, like I said, you'll go ahead and you'll get off the bike. You'll put your running shoes, your socks on. And it's easy if you have already had those on for the bike. You don't only have to touch anything else. You can just already have them on. Then you're just grabbing your glasses, grabbing your race belt, taking off your helmet, and you're going. So yeah, if anybody has any questions, feel free.
So one question we have in the comments is, what do you use for nutrition?
So me personally, I use Goo Roctane. We have some over there. That's just what I've gotten comfortable using. I have used Huma as well, but I've used Huma on long runs and training runs which is what I have right here. But I've never used Huma in a sprinting situation. And so I've gotten very comfortable knowing that goo handles well in my stomach. And so I can use that and not have to worry about any kind of indigestion, any kind of stomach aches. But it's important to know that everybody's different. I use goo without a problem. My wife cannot handle goo during a race. She uses Huma because she doesn't have a problem with that. So it's something that you're going to want to try beforehand, but make sure that you use it in training, that you're doing it in a race-like situation.
Can you explain what the race belt is for?
So a race belt, which is this right here, you're going to get what's called a bib, which is like your race number, and you'll be able to actually loop it through on these parts right here. This way you don't actually have to pin the number onto you. They'll usually give you, like in a regular race, they'll have pins that you can put your number on like this. You only need your number on while you're doing the run. On the bike, they'll usually either have a bike number or a different way to identify your bike, but you don't need to wear your race number while you're biking. So you'll be able to just put it right on the belt, and that way it's easy just to clip on and run with. You don't have to worry about doing any pins.
When you put your bike on the rack, do you put your seat over the bar, or do you put your handlebars over the bar?
So it depends on how big your bike is. If your bike is able to handle, so usually I suggest you put with the seat over the bar. You'll put the seat will hang on the bar from the front of the saddle right here. And it'll be able to hang so that the front wheel is able to touch the ground. If you have a very small bike and you were to hang it there and the bike starts flowing with the wind, that's when I suggest to go with the handlebars. That said, when you do that, just know that your transition would still be on the side of your front wheel.
And does it matter left or right side of your front wheel?
It doesn't. Usually you just go on the trend of whatever everybody else is doing.
Right. Okay, I've never done a triathlon at all, so my question too, are we supposed to have a bike seat like that?
No, these are just what we have for the display ones here. You'll find transitions will have these metal bars going across, and you'll hang your bike from those bars.
Okay, and then my second one was, I was going to use a camelback. Is that allowed to use?
Yes.
Yep.
You can carry your own water any way that you want to. Can you carry water on a race belt? There are some race belts that have water holders, and that is just fine if that's what you would like to do.
Yep.
And these race belts you'll be able to use for other events going forward. So you might want to use them for running events, obviously for your triathlons. And those of you that buy tri-gear, you just don't want to be sticking safety pins in it.
Yeah, it starts fraying early, and
to that expensive gear that you just bought. So it's a good idea, especially for those who are doing a hotter event. Having water on your race belt is not a bad idea, especially in these times.
Yep. You can also carry other things, like, for example, this race belt has kind of different elastics right here. That way you can, now these might be too big, but goos can slip right on into these, and that way you can carry goos on you. Let's say you have little tablets of base salts, which are endurance salts that you can lick, or tablets that you take. They could slip right in there. That way you have stuff on your person, because not all tri-suits, if you have a tri-suit, is going to have pockets. Or if you're wearing, let's say you're wearing a swimsuit or you're wearing running gear, if you don't have pockets on you, it's nice to have something to carry stuff.
So just logistically, like car keys and stuff, where do you put those?
Great question.
So there's a few places you can keep them, and it's going to depend on how the race is going. So if you're allowed back into transition after the race is done, before other finishers are get finished, then you can keep your keys in your transition area, kind of tuck it in the side. Otherwise, if you have a way to keep it with a friend, or a lot of times they'll allow you to have bags wrapped around the transition area that you can put your bag on. But the reason why I say that is because there have been races that I've done where I had my keys in transition, and they're like, no, you can't enter transition or exit transition until the race is over. And it's like, oh, well, I got 3 hours then until I can get back in my car.
She tries. It's very similar. That we don't let you back in transition until the last runner has started of the
Yep.
run portion. At that point, then people are allowed into transition, but you just don't want to be interfering with other participants.
Yep.
And so Rose's question is, where do I put my car keys? One option is with your spectators, but we sell tri bags, or you can use any sort of bag to carry your stuff, and you are allowed to keep that bag in transition. Billy's showing an example.
So a
here.
bag like this, and you can usually put that on the side of transition.
You put it over to the side, or you may have room this year because we're spacing the bikes out a bit more to have it near your bike for sheet tries. A lot of people would just keep it right there. There are some events that you might get into down the road where they are very limited in what you can keep. It has to be on an even smaller towel than Billy's using, and you cannot have bags. So you just always need to follow the rules of your event. But for sheet tries, you can leave things there and you can have a bag.
One thing I do want to mention, sometimes you'll see people with buckets in their transition area. If you have enough room for a bucket, and that's for people to sit on so they can put their shoes on, then go ahead. But in some races down the future, when you have, you're kind of cramped, you don't want to be the person with the bucket because you're taking up space from the other person next to you. But if, let's say, if this event only has 2 or 3 people to a row, you might have enough room for a bucket, so you can totally take advantage of that. By bucket, I mean like a big paint bucket that people carry all their stuff into the race and then be able to sit on when they're putting their shoes on. But I would say get used to putting everything on without that, because going forward, when all of the COVID craziness starts to dwindle down in the future, and you get transition areas back to being packed, you don't want to take up space from the next person.
So Shannon is asking, do you recommend nutrition for a sprint?
Yes, I would. So
At least before.
Yes, me personally, I use a GU right before the race. It depends on how long you're planning on being out there. Every 45 minutes, I suggest taking a GU. That's my own personal body's intake. It's also what's recommended on a lot of these, where it's like 30 to 45 minutes of exercise to take one. If you're going to be super fast and finish in under 30 minutes, you might not need one till, the whole time. But I would definitely suggest taking something beforehand.
I agree. I would have something before, and I would either have my own Gatorade bottle or a GU that I take during the sprint as well.
One other comment. I know for sheet tries, do you guys have nutrition on the course, or like Gatorade or anything on the course?
We only have water.
Okay. So in that case, you're fine with trying anything. If you decide to branch out and do other races, some big races, if you decide to do anything that's, like Kiowa or Ironman branded stuff, even the halves, find out what they're serving on the course and make sure your stomach's used to that. For sheet tries, you'll be fine with anything. But let's say you decide to do one where they're serving Gatorade endurance formula on the course. You want to make sure that you can handle Gatorade and try and train with that before you get started.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody for your questions and for tuning in, and to those who are here with us in person. And if you have more questions, feel free to comment on the video or send me an email, and I'll be happy to get the answer for you if I don't know it. Many thanks to Billy for setting this up today and showing us how to get ready for transition. So this is what you will set up right when you arrive to our Sheet Tries event. You will take your bike into transition. Only you are allowed in there. None of your spectators can come with you. You'll be assigned a spot. If you're uncomfortable where you are, you can move once everyone has arrived. You'll set things up the way Billy showed you today, and that you'll go from there to the swim. Once you come out of swim, you go straight to that spot. You get ready for the bike. You go out on your bike, you come back, you go straight to that spot, and you get ready for your run. One thing that we didn't hit on today is the duathlon option. So I'll let Billy answer or kind of go over that real quick before we sign off.
So for the duathlon option, you'll have already had your shoes on you, and you'll have already had your race belt with you. You'll have been wearing those for the run before you get to the bike. So in a duathlon, you're doing a run, then a bike, then a run. So really, you're ditching all of the stuff you needed for the swim, with the exception of the nutrition. You still want to take a GU beforehand, a Huma, whatever type of nutrition you use before. but you'll have already had your shoes and everything on. So really, for the duathlon, you get back into transition, and all you're really going to have to set up is your bike stuff. But be ready that when you get done with your first set of the bike, let's go ahead, or first set of the run, let's go ahead and say that I just finished my first run. I just took my shoes off, my socks off. I don't want to just kind of throw them anywhere. I want to make sure that where I put them is going to be, once again, easy to grab when I get started on my next run. Because you're going to get back on, put your shoes back on. Now, if you're wearing your shoes the entire time, you don't have to worry at all. My only suggestion then would be, let's say you're not wearing bike shoes, you have your shoes on, so the only thing you have to set up is your helmet, any kind of hydration that you might have on your bike, or if you want to keep one in transition. If you're wearing sunglasses for the run and you want to wear them on the bike, you'll already have those. So really, your transition might just look like this. You might just have your helmet. You might just have your gels if you're using any of those on the bike and you don't have a place to hold those, and you'll have your bike. It's the same thing where you're going to come in, make sure you put your helmet on before you touch your bike, and then when you get off the bike, make sure you finish touching your bike before you take your helmet off. Your race belt, I would still suggest taking this off during the bike. Just the reason being, when you're riding your bike, you're going to hear this flapping in the wind the entire time. It's just adding a little bit of drag, but I find it just personally annoying. But you don't have to. You can wear it the entire time if you'd like, especially if you tuck it in. That way you can have it tucked in and it's not going anywhere. But if you take off your race belt, same thing. Don't just kind of throw it anywhere. Put it down in a spot that you know you can easily grab it again. And that way when you come back, you take your helmet off, you can grab your race belt and you're off.
Awesome. So Cindy asked, do most people race with bike shoes? And I will tell you, Cindy, and she tries, most people are not in cycling shoes. There will be participants who are used to them and are using them, but you'll see a lot of women using their tennis shoes on the bike portion. So I don't know percentage-wise what that looks like. Maybe 30% use cycling shoes in our events, but there are a lot of women doing both. And Shannon asked about a bike pump and extra tube. We will have on-site bike support from Trek, and they will be able to pump up tires before your event. Ideally, you will come with your tires already pumped, but if you need more air the morning of, you can get some from them. But you can carry an extra tube in a bag on your bike. This isn't set up with a bike on the back. We have one on our website where you can just shove a tube in. It's a good idea, especially if it's a bike that is not a regular road bike, because they may not have the same tubes if you need one on the course if you have something come up with your bike. So just be good to have that handy.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, I think that's all of our questions right now. And if there's anything else that we can answer for you, feel free to send it our way. Thank you for joining us, and we hope this was helpful. We look forward to seeing you guys next month.